Hello, so let's look at the rest of the questions here together. So tangent and cotangent, they're equal to each other. That means basically, they're, as we know, they're co-functions. That means those angles has to add up to 90. So here we have x plus 2x minus 6 has to be equal to 90. That means we get to realize 3x must be equal to 96. Therefore, x must be equal to 32, which is choice 2. Same manner, 2a and 3a has to add up to 90. So we have 5a has to be equal to 90, which gets us a has to be equal to 18. And then since a is equal to 18, there it goes. Basically same kind of question. When we add them up, it has to be equal to 90. So we have 5x when you add them up, and plus 5 has to be equal to 90. Then here we have 5x has to be equal to 85, which gets us x to be equal to 17. And here, same way as before, so 2x plus 20 has to be equal to 90. That means 2x has to be equal to 70, which gets us x to be equal to 35. Alright, so we want to convert this one into the radian, express radian in degree measures. So one way which you can do it is this: 7 pi over 18. We can multiply that by 180 over pi. See, when you want to go from the radians to degree, that's the one way which you can do. Then these two pi's cancels out, and 18 and 180 cancels out to be 10. We get 70 as our answer. Degree measure same way here, 2 pi over 5, then we can multiply by 180 over pi here, then pi cancels out, 5 cancels out with 180, which becomes 36, so we end up being 72 degrees. Same way here, 5 pi over 12, multiply that by 180 over pi. Once again, pi cancels out. And then 12 cancels out with 18. I believe it is 15. Now, then 15 times 5 becomes 75. Now, same idea. 7 pi over 12. Multiply that by 180 over pi. Pi cancels out, 12 and 180 cancels out as 15, so 7 times 15 becomes 105. Here 7 pi over 10, multiply that by 180 over pi. So pi cancels out, 10 cancels out with 180, leaving 18 left. 7 times 18, it becomes 126. Degrees. How about 3 pi over 4? 3 pi over 4, same way as before. Multiply that by 180 over pi. Then here we get 4 cancels out with 180, leaving 45. 45 times 3, we end up getting 135 here. Same way, 11 pi over 12 times 180 over pi, then pi cancels out. Here also cancels out with leaving 15, so we change up in 165 degrees. Alright, so what's happening here? Since it starts at positive 1 or negative 1, well, first suspicion tells us that it looks like a cosine function, and as we can see, all of them are cosine functions. Now, what's the amplitude? Amplitude is 1, so which tells us that it can be one of these three. Now, when we look at the frequency is within 2 pi, so this is how much we completed within pi. That means if you continue with the 2 pi, then you will complete one full cycle. So therefore, our answer will be y equals cosine of x. How about here? Similarly, yes, since it starts with this portion looks like a sine function, and it goes as high as 2, so amplitude must be 2. That means these choice 3 and 4 will cancel out. But within 2 pi, how much of a sine sine function do we have? Only half of it, which gets us choice 1 as our answer. How about here? It looks like cosine, but we only have half the cycle between 0 to 2 pi. So therefore, we gotta have 1/2 as the coefficient of x, which means we are looking at choice 3 or 4. But highest point and lowest point is positive 2 to negative 2, which tells us the amplitude is 2. So therefore, choice 3 becomes our answer. How about here? Within 2 pi, we have 2 cycles. As you can see, it looks like a sine function. That means we gotta have choice either 1 or 4. But it goes as high as half or as low as negative half. Therefore, choice 4 will be our final answer. It looks like a sine function, but it starts the other way around. That tells us that we gotta have negative. Within 2 pi, we only have 1 cycle. That tells us 1 cycle means coefficient of x has to be equal to 1. And as you can see, 2 makes sense because it goes as high as 2, as low as negative 2. So therefore, choice 3 would have been our answer. Alright, how about this one? It goes as high as 2, as low as negative 2, so we gotta have 2 in the front. But in this case, we are looking at cosine function here. You see it looks like a C over there? That's the sign of having cosine function. One way for us to look into it in that way. So we have choice 2 becomes our answer. Now, brightness of a star is given by this equation where x represents the time and y represents the brightness. Alright, what is the period? In radian measure, period is 2 pi over frequency. Frequency here is the pi over 4. So we end up getting 2 pi over pi over 4. Then here we end up getting 8 as our answer. So therefore, 8 will be our period. Now, amplitude of 2, so therefore 3 and 4 is out. Period of 4 pi. So once again, period of 4 pi is equal to 4 pi. That means 2 pi over f has to be equal to 4 pi. Now, you can realize that f has to be 0.5 or 1/2 in order for this one to happen. That means f is the in fact coefficient of x, so choice 1 will become our answer. Now we have p of t is given in this way, where t represents time in seconds. How many seconds does it take the pendulum to complete one full cycle? You see, this is called period. So once again, what do? 2 pi over 3. Then this will be equal to 6. So therefore 6 will be our period. What is the period of this function? Once again, we have to look at the coefficient of x, which is 1/3, so 2 pi over 1/3. Then here we end up getting 6 pi becomes our answer, which is choice 4. Alright, let's look at number 22. So this is the expression, and what is the period? Once again, 2 pi over the frequency here in front of x, which is equal to 1. So 2 pi itself is the our answer. Now, having this one, and what is the period? Once again, period is what? 2 pi over the coefficient of x, which is 2. So therefore, pi will be our answer. Same idea here. 2 pi over 3 is simply the answer. How many seconds does pendulum complete one full cycle? Same idea as before. We just have to look at 2 pi over 3, which will be equal to 6. Period of the function here. It seems like we did this question before. Here we have 2 pi over 4, which will be equal to 8. 8 becomes our answer. Which type of symmetry does the equation of this one have? Now, so this one basically looks something like this. Goes from this way, goes up, and so is this way. Goes up. Is it symmetrical about the x-axis? Not quite, because in order for it to be symmetrical about the x-axis, I should have something else coming up this way, and that is not the case. About the y equals x, that means, once again, it will be this line, but that's not true. point symmetry with respect to the origin. If it were to be point symmetry about the origin, then I should have corresponding point to this one, which will be on the other side. That doesn't make sense either. Point symmetry about pi over 2 equal comma 0. Pi over 2 comma 0 is right over here. And yes, there is a point symmetry because everything's reflexive, reflecting this particular point, or this point, any other points for that matter. So therefore, choice 4 becomes our answer. Now, because of the absolute value, sign will always be positive. That means we will not have the values in third and fourth quadrant. Now, in this case, technically we can write this one in many different ways, but since it looks like a cosine function, we're going to just assume the cosine first. And then it goes as high as 2 and then as low as 2, so we're going to have amplitude is 2. But as you can see, it starts from the bottom, so I'm going to assume that negative 2 cosine will be our answer. Now, within 2 pi, we only finish one cycle, so we're going to have x as it is. So y equals negative 2 cosine of x seems to be our answer. Now here, 3 feet above, and then in that way, okay. So the range of the rope's height goes between 1 through 5 feet. That means that's the amplitude from 3. That means we're going to go as high as 5 and as low as 1. That means from 3 we're going to go up and down by 2. So therefore A will be equal to 2. And period is 4 pi. If the period is 4 pi, that means which is equal to 2 pi over frequency, which is the value B here, then F will be equal to 1/2. Now C, of course, is the starting point, which is 3. If you have to combine all those things together, we'll end up having something like this. Y equals amplitude is 2, and then sine of B is equal to 1/2. That means x over 2 and plus 3. That becomes our answer. All right. Let's look into this question. What is the period of this wave? Same thing once again. 2 pi over 2, which is the frequency, which ends up in pi. Period of this curve, so which we end up getting 2 pi over 4, which is equal to pi over 2. Maximum value. You see, it goes, amplitude is 3, but it starts from 1, so therefore it's going to be, this expression can go as high as 3 with 1, then it can go as high as 4. Maximum value, yes, since this one amplitude is 2, it's going to go as high as 2, as low as negative 2 from C. So maximum value has to be C plus 2. Now, we need to sketch y equals 4 cosine of x, and y equals 2. Alright, so let's try to look into this one here. We're looking at negative pi to pi. Now, this seems to be our origin here. Why don't we just make the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 units as a pi. Just to have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. That's the negative pi. Then 4 cosine of x, then it's going to go up as high as 4 and as low as 4. Now, since the graph goes this way, and let's try to assume that each 2 unit is 1. So we're going to have 4 up to here, and it's going to go down all the way this way. And then pi will be negative 4. 1, 2. So we're going to go down, and pi over 2, that's when they're going to hit it. Same thing. And that's the kind of graph. With the pencil, you can sketch it a bit better. Now, and y equals 2, what does it mean by y equals 2? Then it's right over here. That's y equals 2. And we want to see how the graph is greater than 2. That means we are looking at this portion right over here. So then in this case, this must be find the interval. And we are looking, for example, this particular point would have been 2 equals 4 cosine of x. That means cosine of x has to be equal to 1/2. Cosine of x will be equal to 1/2 when x equals 60 degrees, or which will be equal to pi over 3. So this will be this interval, these two values. Even though it's not accurate, it will be negative pi over 3 to positive pi over 3. Alright. Here, similarly, it's going to have half the cycle. So I'm going to go up as 2 units. So I'm going to make 2. And then 1, 2, 3. So this will be the pi. Oh. This will be pi. This will be 2 pi. So here we have sine of half of x of 2. It will go from here to all the way up here. And then it will be y equals 2 sine of x over 2 from negative pi, negative 2 pi to positive 2 pi. Alright. Cosine is the even function, in fact. So when you have negative instead of cosine, that's same thing as not having negative sign. So in fact, this becomes cosine of 220 degrees. 220 degrees, as you can see, is on the third quadrant. So therefore, this becomes negative cosine of 40 degrees. Because 40 is the reference angle. Here, tangent of 230 is the third quadrant. Therefore, tangent of 230 is still tangent. And then since the reference angle is 50, we can just write it in this way. How about tangent? Tangent is an odd function, so therefore negative sign will come out, so which makes this one as negative tangent of 140 degree angle. Now 140 degrees is in fact on the second quadrant, which makes tangent to be negative. So with the original negative, this becomes positive, where tangent, the reference angle of 140 becomes 40 degrees. That's basically what we end up getting. Now tangent of negative 240, then negative can come out. Once again, that's equal to negative tangent of 240. But 240 degrees is on the third quadrant. Therefore, tangent itself is positive, which keeping the negative sign as it is with the reference angle of 60. Choice 3. Sine of 230, it's on the third quadrant, so therefore it becomes negative sine. And then the reference angle from 230 to x-axis would have been 50 degrees, so therefore that becomes our answer. Find the value of this one. See, we realize that the sine of 135 is on the second quadrant, which makes sine of 45. Sine of 45 is radical 2 over 2, and that becomes our answer. Alright, what is the value of, so this becomes negative tangent of the reference angle becomes 60 degrees, which means negative tangent of 60 is equal to radical 3, so that becomes our answer. Tangent of negative 135 is same as negative tangent of 135, which gets us second quadrant. Second quadrant, the tangent is a negative. With the already existing negative, we're going to get positive tangent of 45 degrees. What are we going to do? That's basically equal to 1. Alright, that's it. Have a nice day.